Why does your brain treat silence as a threat? You're in an empty room. No one else is there. You know this. And yet, the back of your neck prickles. You glance over your shoulder. Nothing. But the feeling doesn't leave. This isn't paranoia. It isn't a disorder. It's inheritance. For hundreds of thousands of years, the humans who failed to notice didn't survive. Welcome to GreaterQuest. This episode asks, what happens when a mind built to detect danger never learned how to stop? Imagine walking through tall grass. The light is low. The air is still. Then it happens. A sound behind you. A rustle, barely enough to register. You stop. There are two possible explanations. It could be the wind, or it could be something waiting. You don't have time to investigate. There's no way to be sure. If you retreat and nothing is there, you waste a little energy. If you ignore it and you're wrong, you don't get a second chance. This is the environment the human mind adapted to. Not a world of certainty, but a world of consequences. The human brain was never meant to be impartial. It was shaped to keep you alive. And survival does not reward patience. It favors speed. In landscapes filled with predators, darkness, and ambiguity, waiting for proof is costly. So the brain adopted a different strategy. It began treating movement as intentional, quiet as suspicious, absence as risk. This isn't pessimism, it's arithmetic. In biology, there are two kinds of errors. One is failing to notice a real threat, a presence you didn't detect. The other is reacting to something harmless, mistaking noise for danger. Evolution doesn't balance these evenly. One costs energy, the other costs life. Over generations, the equations settled. The minds that endured were not the most precise, they were the most cautious. Paranoia wasn't a flaw, it was leverage. Pause for a moment. Listen to where you are right now. How many sounds can you identify? How many remain unresolved? Early humans lived inside that uncertainty constantly. This is why the human mind behaves like a detector, not a judge. It doesn't ask, is this true? It asks, is this safe? That question runs continuously. Even when there is no immediate threat, even when the environment goes quiet, a system built to detect does not disengage simply because the world grows calmer. As humans learned to use fire, build tools, and live in groups, something unexpected happened. External dangers slowly declined. Internal machinery did not. The system had no off switch. A mind trained to scan doesn't relax easily. When predators fade, alertness remains. Attention keeps roaming. And when no obvious risk appears, the system doesn't settle. It searches. Not because it's malfunctioning, but because it was never designed to experience safety as permanent. Nightfall was one of the most dangerous moments for early humans. Vision disappears. Sounds distort. Familiar landscapes turn unfamiliar. At night, the brain cannot confirm safety, so it assumes the opposite. Every sound becomes intentional. Every shadow becomes a presence. The dark does not feel empty, it feels watchful. This is not imagination. It is threat detection operating without visual confirmation. The same restless drive we called quest mode didn't shut off here. It simply turned toward new kinds of questions. A cautious human walked differently, hunted differently, built shelter differently. Paranoia wasn't just a feeling, it was architecture. The same logic applied to illness. Pain appeared without warning. Fever rose suddenly. Death arrived without pattern. But early humans had no concept of bacteria, no microscopes, no microbes or viruses, no invisible mechanisms they could name. What they had was a mind trained to look for threats. It looks for an agent. From that perspective, randomness made no sense. A mind trained to look for threats does not accept causeless suffering. It searches for intention. Something unseen was acting. Something invisible was responsible. This instinct didn't emerge from fear of the unknown. It emerged from the cost of ignoring it. If unexplained events could kill you, then every unexplained event demanded attention. Some dangers were visible, some causes were not, and some causes were never even imagined. To a mind built for survival, all three felt the same. The mind became highly responsive to patterns, to correlations, to coincidence. If lightning followed a certain act, the act gained meaning. If sickness followed a place, the place became suspect. Meaning wasn't sought for comfort, it was sought for control. Many animals experience fear. Humans carried it forward. They remembered it, imagined it, anticipated it. Fear no longer required immediacy. This is where anxiety begins, not as pathology, but as memory plus imagination, a response that no longer needs a trigger. The human mind began to behave as if danger were everywhere, because once it was, and the cost of forgetting that fact was extinction. This is why humans notice faces in shadows, hear voices in noise, and feel watched when alone. These aren't hallucinations, they're extensions of a survival system. Minds that missed too much didn't last. Minds that noticed too much did. And this vigilance followed rules. Events weren't just noted, they were attributed. Something caused this. Someone was responsible. Psychologists call this agency detection, the tendency to treat events as purposeful. In modern life, it explains why patterns feel intentional, why coincidences feel loaded, why conspiracies spread. In early humans, it kept people alive. The world didn't feel random, it felt active, responsive, filled with forces that could be avoided, anticipated, or eventually bargained with. At this stage, there are still no gods, no spirits, no rituals, only a nervous system that never stops scanning, only a mind that treats uncertainty as a problem demanding resolution. Fear alone isn't belief, but fear prepares the ground where belief can take root. A mind that sees risk everywhere can't exist in constant alarm. It needs relief. It needs explanation. It needs a way to respond to what it cannot see. That need doesn't disappear. It changes form. Most dangers can be avoided. Most threats can be escaped. Most agents can be anticipated. But one certainty resists vigilance. One outcome arrives no matter how alert you remain: death. And when a mind built to survive encountered that reality, it did something radical. In the next episode, we look at what happens when survival itself stops providing answers. Subscribe and follow the search for the origin of us.